You'd think one moss rug would be enough, right? No. Moss and mushrooms are two of the coolest things on the planet, in my opinion. Not cool enough for me to obsessively research them, I guess, but definitely cool enough for me to use them frequently as a whimsical decor inspiration. Exhibits A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. A while back, I stumbled on this incredible artist on Instagram, Sienna Mart's art. She works with a lot of waste fabric, and I absolutely adore her artwork. Like the lines and the curves and the textures that she gets, stunning. And when I saw this specific one, I was like, oh hey, if that was gray with green in between, it would look like rocks surrounded in either moss or grass. So Moss Rug 2.0 is very much inspired by her artwork. Go check her out, I've linked her in the description. My plan was to make gray blobs out of knit material like she does, so that when you stuff them, they have height. And then attach them to a backing and tuft in between, because I have a tufting gun now. No latch hooking 3 straight weeks this time. Yeah, but one merry day as this project set on my do that in January when you supposedly have more time list, my lovely friend Shannon of Shannon Makes, totally unprompted and with no knowledge of my rock rug plans, told me she was making a rock rug. Great minds, y'all. Now, Shannon's plan is a little different than mine in style, but essentially they are both rock rugs. So we figured, let's collaborate. Let's work on them at the same time, and let's contribute to each other's projects. Let's each make something for the other person's rug. We already kind of decided that I can do some tufting for her, and she can maybe sew some little mushrooms or something for me. I'm so excited that we both had this idea independently and slightly differently.
And completely inspired by different things.
Exactly, and without ever mentioning it to each other at all.
It's kismet. I love it. So that was my inspiration image.
I like the variety here. I like that there's the bricks and the smaller rocks, and it's not just going to be, because mine I think I'm going to do very kind of all the same, because mine is less of a brick path and more of here's a bunch of rocks with moss between them and stuff. So I like that they're going to end up looking very different.
Exactly. And the variety in yours is going to come in that because you have an extra third dimension that I probably won't have, your variety is going to come in the shape of each rock. So even though all the rocks are homogeneous, they're going to be different. I don't know. They're all going to be different from each other.
Yeah, different sizes, and I might actually try for some variety with the moss type on mine.
Originally, I was thinking about, because if you look on my inspo image, you can see that there's some succulents, there's some plants, there's probably some of that greenery is moss, which one I really like because it adds color. And I was originally thinking to do it latch hook, because that's the only way that that's what I have accessible to me.
Yeah.
But if we can add tufting in, that's going to be probably funner and faster.
It would be way faster. So I'm going to leave it all completely untrimmed for you. That's usually the last thing you do anyway. Yeah. And you can decide what different heights you want to trim it to.
So let's tackle yours, because I think yours is going to be a little more challenging for the collaboration aspect.
That's why I was thinking something along the line of mushrooms or something.
Can you make one log, a cute little log that goes sitting in with,
should.
Because that wouldn't be hard to do. I've been thinking about doing one for Canel's bed.
Or even, a stump.
Yeah, to sit on. You could even literally make it sit on a bull if you really wanted to.
Oh, a little stump in the middle would be so cool.
That would be amazing. You have to do it now.
I wonder how tall I could make it. Why you gotta take my ideas and make them even harder?
But even cooler!
I know. It'd be so freaking cute.
I was thinking it could be kind of fun to do a couple, maybe a butterfly. I saw one snail, a pattern for a fabric snail, which looked really cute. I think what would be helpful for me then is if you could give me kind of a general sense of scale.
No, yeah, that's a good point. Especially if there's a tree stump, because rocks
Also.
If there's nothing to compare the rocks to, it's how big are they? But if there's a tree stump now, then there is a sense of scale. So yeah. Well, I guess I'm making a stump now. I'm lightly overwhelmed by the number of steps to this project. So what do we do when we're overwhelmed? We make a list. While I'm making a list, you're gonna hear a quick word from today's sponsor, Wild Grain. Y'all, every time that I get to work with Wild Grain, I am so freaking excited because, bread. Bread is amazing, and Wild Grain has amazing bread. They are the first Bake from Frozen subscription box for sourdough breads, artisanal pastries, and fresh pastas. And opening that box is such a delight every time. Wild Grain partners with small bakers and pasta makers around the country, so their food is nutritious and delicious, utilizing a slow fermentation process that's easier on your belly, but rich in flavor. Their products have no preservatives in them, just a simple list of ingredients that I recognize and know how to pronounce. Crazy, right? Each bread and pastry can be baked from frozen in 25 minutes or less. We made an olive oil dipping sauce to go with this ciabatta when some friends came over and they were like, dang, that's good bread, and we ate all of it. True story. Wild Grain is always adding new and seasonal products, and you can even get gluten-free, protein, or vegan boxes to specifically match your dietary needs. If you would like to check them out, then click the link in the description below and use my code THESTITCHERY to get $30 off your first box. Plus, my favorite part, free croissants for life. Okay, I am sure that I have that list done now, so thank you to Wild Grain for sponsoring this beast of a video, and let's get back to it. We have a list, and I can already mark off a couple things because I just ordered the foam for the stump, and I went ahead and decided kind of on dimensions for that. Everything might change, but kinda. And I passed that information on to Shannon. So let's move to item 3, testing tufting. I grabbed every green and brown yarn I've got and set up the tufting frame. I was previously playing around a bit when my sister and stepmom came for a visit, so we've already tested a few different yarn colors and textures. And also, that's why my fabric isn't properly stretched in here. Don't worry about it, this is just a test. The number one thing I need to figure out is how to stabilize my balls of yarn. They need to be able to spin freely, or at least the yarn needs to be able to unwind freely, because if you have any tension on the yarn while tufting, it'll just yank backwards out of the gun, and unfortunately, this at-home model did not come with a solution for that. I'll be noodling over that conundrum for the next few weeks, but in the meantime, I really was just wanting to blend colors here so the tufting isn't all one shade. And you can put more than one piece of yarn in the gun at the same time, so you can do 2 different colors, but that gives you stripes. Even when I used 3 colors together down here, you can kinda still see the striped vibe. I tried going in more curvy lines and even just putting small smatterings of other colors here and there, but it still comes off pretty stripy, so I'm gonna have to do some more research here. I think it'll either have to be all one color, or maybe variegated yarn would work? This info can be sent off to Shannon so we can muse over that together, and I'm gonna move on to another test. My plan is to make the rocks out of a stretch material with cardboard stuck inside across the bottom to keep one side flat while the other side poofs up from being stuffed. On my first test piece, I cut the bottom fabric to match the cardboard template with seam allowance, then measured the circumference of that piece and cut out a random circular shape with an even bigger circumference as the top piece. I stretched the bottom one as I sewed them together, then slid the cardboard in, and it's looking a little loosey-goosey. I therefore did a second test, this time cutting both the top and bottom fabrics the same, cardboard template plus seam allowance. This is looking much better with the cardboard inside, but I'm concerned that it won't poof enough when stuffed. Let's stuff them and see. So here's what I've learned. You don't need to do a giantly bigger piece in order to get some height on it. Like, this is pretty decent already. I think if I want some variation in height, I can maybe do some that are like half an inch bigger, but I think it should still be in the shape of the cardboard template. I think doing it just like a random circle almost deletes the purpose of the cardboard template and like of it being a certain shape. It makes it a lot more lumpy bumpy. It's not quite a circle, but it is kind of like all over the place. But I think the bottom piece actually needs to be the same size, like no seam allowance, or even smaller than the cardboard, because it still does stretch. So right now it's being stretched up kind of always an inch, about an inch all the way around. So I could definitely take out some size in the bottom piece just to keep that seam as close to the cardboard as possible. I'm gonna take this one apart because I don't need it, but I'm actually gonna keep this one because it's gonna be a new armrest for my computer desk, something I've been meaning to make myself for like the last year. What's next? I ordered 6-inch thick firm foam, and it arrived very quickly, but upon removing it from the box, Matt instantly claimed it for a nap, complete with my test rock as a pillow. Puppy, what's happening? I also realized I'm gonna need a hot knife thing to cut this with, or there's just gonna be a giant mess. Like, I've tried cutting 2-inch thick foam before, and it was messy. So while that arrives and Matt snoozes, we're switching to... I'm gonna start with the box the foam came in, cause it's so on hand, and at first I was drawing on my rock shape before cutting it out, but eventually I was like, what the heck, just go for it and chop some stuff. Also, Matt moved to napping on the couch, cause the noise was disturbing his peace. Noise which I did not record because my mic was dead and I didn't realize. So professional. I'm not sure if I want rocks this big, but I figured I might as well try a range of sizes, and after all that haphazard going for it, this one box yielded 21 rock bases and a pile of scraps. Onward! I have 3 colors of gray knit that I found secondhand when I wasn't even looking. This is why you gotta have a running list of items needed for upcoming projects, so you can keep an eye out for them at all times. Thanks to my test yesterday, I've decided to cut all of the bottom pieces exactly the same as the cardboard template, and then for the top pieces I'm gonna, wing it. Some bigger, some the same size, some bigger in some places and the same size in other places. I freaking love this game of imperfection. With all 22 rocks cut out, I'm reusing my template from the test, so it's 22 now. 'Tis time to sew and stuff. I'm gonna sew and stuff with just the cardboard for now so that I don't lose track of which board goes with which cover, and we shall leave the actual stuffing for later. Stuffing time! So these rocks are getting stuffed, not with polyfill, but with all of my tiny fabric scraps. Perfect way to use them up. Also, I will note that if anybody wants to do this kind of thing, you really don't want to stuff these with polyfill. My tester one here, I actually cut back open, took the polyfill out, and restuffed it with yarn scraps. Because since you're using a stretch material and it's being opened up a little bit by the stuffing itself, all of the polyfill comes and sticks through the little holes, and it is a terrible, terrible feeling. So yeah, you don't want to do that actually. Not when you're using knit. I am a little afraid that these are not going to be as poofy as I wanted them to be, especially the lightest color here. It's the least stretchy. But I also felt that way about the test, and then I stuck stuff in it and I was like, no, actually, this is good. Let's stuff stuff, huh? This fabric is a little bit see-through, so I think I need to set aside specifically like black fabrics to stuff these with, because you can see cherries straight through it. This one's okay. Normally when people are stuffing something with fabric scraps, they slice them up into pretty small confetti first so that it's not super lumpy. But one, these are rocks, so I don't mind if they're a little lumpy, and I want them to be really firm, not squishy. And two, I didn't feel like it. I basically just gave a few snips here and there when a handful didn't want to detach from the larger patch. And I really gotta trust the stretch of stretch fabric. It stretched just fine. Granted, I'm going for kind of flat rocks, not ones with a lot of height to them, so I think if you wanted a more rocky rock, you'd need to make that top piece of fabric a lot bigger than the bottom one and kind of gather it around the edges. Sort of like I did with my first test that I didn't like as much. Back to that thinner knit, even using the more neutral colors of stuffing fabric, you could still see the variation through the outside fabric. So I solved that problem by cutting a piece of cotton batting and shoving it inside against the top fabric, then stuffing underneath it. This not only takes care of the see-throughness, but it also smooths out the lumps just a little bit. Even the darker color was still see-through, so I'm going to be doing that on all of the rocks in this thinner material. The more stretchy fabric definitely can give you taller rocks though, so the height variation is a nice addition to the color variation. Though if you were doing this yourself, which do it, these are so easy and quick to make, I would recommend using a thicker knit. It's just a little more stable and sturdy and less problematic. Yo, we got 22 rocks! Ta-da! So squishy! And the best part is that this is all that is left of my fabric scraps, of my tiny fabric scraps. Empty basket, empty bag, empty bag. It is so cool being able to do one project and get rid of all of that. Or put it to use, not get rid of it. It's a terrible angle. So I do not really know if this is all the rocks that I want or need, or if I'm gonna want more. This seems like a decent size because I don't want them all butted up against each other like this. I want them spread out with a lot more green in between. And there's a whole frickin' ass tree stump too. I was picturing this being a fairly big rug. And yeah, I think it will be. So this is probably gonna be enough, which means it's time to move on. Or move back, really. Back to testing. I have been told by the internet, and discovered on my own, that you can tuft with any yarn that will fit through your particular tufting gun. But if you buy yarn that has been manufactured for tufting, it comes wound on central cones. You can then stick that cone on a rod, such as this, so that it will unwind as you work. Yes, this box is janky as crap, but I just made it out of scrap wood and I am quite pleased. I may have put the dowels too close together, but I will have to hand wind all of my yarn onto the cardboard tubes that I've been hoarding, cause what crafter isn't hoarding trash in all the dark corners of their home? So I'll just not wind them too thick at one time, I guess. I did splurge a bit on some more green yarn, particularly variegated or speckled colors, so it's time for, technically, round 3 of tufting tests. And this janky box of dowels worked great! I could set it on the floor and it was basically the same motion that I had experienced when doing a tufting class at a legit studio. You kinda do a chunk of tufting and then you pull your yarn so you have slack. But it's unwinding and coming through the holes perfectly and my yarn isn't going everywhere, so huzzah for scrap wood and a nail gun. I also very much like the look of the lighter green variegated yarn. I got both a gradient out of it and a more scattered colorway by varying up the order I did the lines. The two speckled greens didn't show much color variation once tufted, but I do like the darker shade. I also learned I need to pack the lines way closer together, which might be due to this particular tufting gun, this yarn, or tufting on monk's cloth. Who's to say that's enough testing, let's go make a stump. Y'all, the hot knife is so freaking cool. Goes through you know, a hot knife through butter. Hence the name. I would recommend investing in one if you're expecting to cut up foam fairly often, which yeah, I got that much foam on purpose. I have future plans. What's up? Hi. Unfortunately, my foam is about half an inch wider than this piece of hot wire, so I kinda had to shave away bit by bit to get my circle out of here, but no worries, all those pieces will be saved and used as stuffing a little bit later in this project. It's like a giant wheel of Parmesan! I've been collecting wood-looking fabrics for a while now. Didn't know I'd be making a stump, but I kind of figured I'd be making something eventually. The best is this knit material that's a more subtle nod to wood in my opinion, rather than the sort of too blatant and obvious prints on cotton. I do also need fabric to be the top of the stump though, which, I definitely forgot about until right at this moment. Luckily, I have this cream-colored, weird textured bit of fabric that I got at Goodwill way back in the olden days before I had found remainders. I went to look up stump tops and immediately got overwhelmed by how delightfully imperfect most of these are. Like, I don't think I can imitate the cracks and the wobbly edges and the thick bark without going insane. So we're gonna use these more round and simple images as inspiration. And now we embroider. This fabric has a bit of stretch to it, which means it's really not ideal for this type of embroidery. A heavy canvas would have been best. However, it is the best fabric I currently have on hand for the top of a stump. So I slapped some interfacing on the back and we're going for it, really leaning into the imperfection. I purposely changed stitch width, backstitched randomly, sped up and slowed down. I noticed a lot of trees have this color change in their rings partway through, and thank goodness for that, because I ran out of my first thread about halfway in, so I can switch colors and call it a realistic design choice. Zigzag stitching uses a heck of a ton of thread, but not much bobbin thread, which I totally forgot. I prepped 3 bobbins and ended up only running out of the first one on the very last ring. So due to the stretchiness of the fabric, even with the addition of the interfacing, we have a little extra fold of material here. While I puzzle through this, let's go check in on Shannon and all of her rocks.
Couple hundred rocks down. Couple hundred more to go.
Welp, I solved it by adding a delightfully imperfect crack. Actually worked really well. I don't know how realistic it looks. I mean, like, a bunch of them had cracks in the tree trunk, like that's very common. I don't know if this looks like it. I don't know. It's fine. I also added a strip of non-stretch fabric around the side because I don't want to sew this directly to this stretchy fabric to put it on here. That would have been a bad idea as far as getting it tightly fitting. So this will just be sewn on top. Oh my god, why'd I make it this big? It did not have to be this big. This is 24 inches across. I definitely could have made it like 20, 18. Oh well, we've committed, clearly. So the next conundrum is that I don't want this to just be like a straight up and down tubular stump. I want it to have like the roots coming out of the side and everything, because of course I do. Why not make it harder? I have a lot to think about. How do you make roots? Should it be taller? Why did I make it so big? I'm probably gonna spend the rest of tonight thinking about that. Sometimes you just gotta give yourself time to think on your problems, to think on your conundrums, and then, you know, while you're trying to fall asleep at night, or while you're taking a shower, or while you're pooping, you come up with answers. After a round of all 3 aforementioned thinking moments, I decided to cut a circle out of my wood-like material and sew that around the stump top so that I have all the rest of that fabric splaying out in the sides for root possibilities. It's coming together! I cut out a giant piece of cardboard in a kind of sun shape and athletic feet, which I unfortunately didn't film, then plumped that central stump on top. I have 2 methods to try out for building up the roots. The first is just that, building it up using scraps of foam and fabric, then covering the whole thing with a piece of cotton batting and wrapping it with yarn so it all stays in place until the actual fabric goes over it. Honestly, I thought this would be a massive mess and a hassle, but it actually worked really well and was fairly easy. My second method was to make a little sheath out of a very stretchy knit, cut in the shape of the root, and then stuff it kind of the normal way. This also worked totally fine, but I found it a little more difficult to get the scraps and the stuffing into the end and to every little bit, so I think I'm gonna stick with mainly my build it up and wrap it method.
That's
that's pretty much the end of my tiny scraps. I'm gonna have to move on to my medium-sized scraps to finish this up. How exciting! And now we've got this very odd-looking octopus. Huzzah! No, wait, it doesn't have 8 tentacles. Never mind, whatever. I can stretch the fabric over all the tentacles, roots, and I'm gonna pin it down very thoroughly along the entire edge. I then stitched that entire perimeter down by hand, slow going, but not too bad, before cutting it down so I just have, a chunk of a seam allowance sticking out there. By flipping the whole stump over, I could essentially do this lashing / whip stitch technique with leftover embroidery floss to pull all of that seam allowance underneath. And, y'all, I think we got a completed stump. What is that? Are you not sure about stepping on it yet? So many sniffs. Hi, you can stand on it. Come here. What a big boy. No thanks. Y'all, it's done! I made a stump! Oh, so many itchy scratchies. Ooh, this big yawn. It is undeniably quite large. A little bit larger than I was originally picturing or setting out to make, but that's okay. It's also a little bit creepy. I see that. I'm not denying it. I think it's because a thing that normally has very noticeable texture is instead smooth. And so our brains see that and go like, that looks like a poorly rendered video game, or AI slop or something. I'm hoping that with the addition of the grass and the moss around it, and maybe even some mushrooms sticking off, that it'll look a little less creepy. Just a little less. This rug is going to be massive. I was already picturing a fairly large rug before the stump even was a part of this, because these rocks aren't gonna be right next to it. They're gonna be spread out. So we are now talking massive. I already said massive, but massive. Does it make a good seat? Yes, it does. It's quite comfy. This is great foam. There's already fur all over it. 'Twas at this point that I paused on this project for a hot second. Don't forget to take breaks from your projects whenever you feel it's necessary, y'all. Here is some footage of the puppy being adorable to fill that interlude. Oh, nice baby. It's been a hot second. I cut my hair, but some of you already knew that. But I do feel like we are on the home stretch now. Like most of the really hard stuff is done. Let's check in with that list. Plenty of stuff marked off, but plenty left to do. So, let's do it! I have a package of monk's cloth that I think I got during the Joann closing sales, 2.5 yards by 60 inches, and I've promised myself the rug cannot be any bigger than this, so it's gonna be pretty much this size, I guess, cause the stump barely fits. Arranging the rocks could have been obsessive. It could have been something I spent hours doing and redoing, but we are going for a natural look, which means no arrangement is perfect, and I just gotta accept one and move on. And sit. Oh, good boy. I let myself do the rearranging for about half an hour before realizing this big guy was just gonna have to go. It has been suggested to me that it looks lightly phallic anyway. The rest of the 21 rocks are good to stay though, kinda pushed towards the center as much as possible so I gained a few precious inches of blank cloth on each end. And now we trace everything, starting with the stump, then each of the rocks, and then the outer line of the whole thing, because it's not gonna be square, it's gonna undulate naturally. From there, we get into labeling. I just Sharpied a letter and an arrow on each rock and rock location, so I'll be able to line them up properly after the tufting is complete. And the sun was putting on a show, so here's a totally useless shot of the finished design. Whee! As the astute observers may have puzzled out by now, that's you, you're an astute observer. This rug will not fit on the little at-home tufting frame I've got, and there's no way I'm doing it in weird chunks. Oh no. I'm gonna be building myself a frame from scratch, just the right size for this stretch of cloth. That means a trip to the hardware store, a bunch of wood, some metal brackets, and strips of carpet tacks.
You're making a rug, right?
Yes.
Isso aqui vai ser frame que ela vai botar a porra que ela vai usar uma máquina que fica... Are you gonna sand this or something?
No. Actually, it's kind of bonkers how easy this was to build.
What happened?
It was kind of soft over there.
After I sawed the pieces of wood into 2 legs, 2 feet, a top, and a bottom, I had Matt do all the screwing. I'm not much of a screwer.
Okay.
You're so needy. Hello.
So we can do... So I don't need the wood there. What were you saying about you wanted to do something before lunch tomorrow?
This, but we're doing it now.
Oh, good.
So you're all good. Hi. Look at your silly little face. We even had a third set of hands for extra assistance, because Matt has a friend visiting from Brazil right now, so huzzah! Once the basic frame was all good, I stuck these carpet tack strips all the way around it, arrows pointing outward because we discovered that's how the tacks are angled. And we nail gunned like crazy for extra strength. And like, that's it, y'all. That's the frame.
That's a nice little death machine.
I know. It's giant, and it's making me want to do so many tufting projects. Like, full-sized rugs are in my future for sure. Hey, baby. I maybe should have made it a little bigger, though. I mean, you're not really supposed to put your designs this close to the edge of the material when tufting. I'm just stuck with that because of stump size. And it was tough to calculate the stretch of this material without going overboard. Like, if the frame was too big, I would have been up a creek, but too small just means I have to kinda adjust the edges of my design inward. Would have helped if I hung it up more evenly, but It was at this point that mirror image occurred to me, or reflection, or whatever it is. You astute observers are likely miles ahead of me and already aware of my mistake. You tuft on the back of the fabric. So without getting into it too much, because I'm sure you know what I mean and also I really don't want to explain it, this won't work. Luckily, it was really easy for me to trace my design onto the other side of the fabric with it hung up like this, and now I have a reason to stretch it a little more evenly because we gotta take it down and flip it. Let's just skip to that being done. And now there is naught left to do but to tuft, which I'm unnecessarily nervous to start.
What you doing?
Procrastinating.
This looks nice.
Thanks. Hey look, something else I could do. Right when I was gonna start tufting this, I got the stuff from Shannon that I need to tuft, so should we switch? I might switch. I don't know. I'll have decided right now. Who are we kidding? Of course I'm switching to this. Yay, procrastination! But for good reason. Okay, so first of all, she ordered the yarn that she wants for her piece, which turned out to be exactly the same yarn I'm gonna be using on my piece. And then what she decided to do was send me the shape that I need to tuft as like a piece of fabric. That's in here, but also whatever she made me. Looks like we've got a few small pieces in cardboard. Ooh, we're gonna do some little pieces here. This is gonna be fun. Also, go watch her video if you want to see how all of this fits in. Her style of rug is so much different than mine, and it's so cool. So then we have pieces like this. Oh, nice. And she put this side up on all of these too, because as we just thought about a minute ago, which side is up matters. She sent a treat for Link. He will be very happy about that. Okay, so here's what she made for me. Yo, it's so cute. Oh my god, it's precious! It is just the right amount of whimsy and it has all of her fun fabrics. Ugh, and she does the crazy quilting so well. That is freaking adorable. And it's gonna be such a cute little pop of color. It's totally gonna be like on the stump. Ah! I love it so much. Munch. I had a meeting that afternoon, so 'tis the perfect time to procrastinate on tufting some more and instead start working on a few pom-poms that will add some texture and dimension to the rug. Maybe. People have asked how the original moss rug is holding up, and y'all, the latch hook part is great. It's going fine. But the pom-poms I put on here, not so much. They shed very easily, and I think I've even lost an entire one from in here somewhere. This is because I made them the super simple way, which, let's be real, could be considered the wrong way, since it means they fall apart really easily. Basically, I wrapped the yarn in a continual loop and then tied it in the middle, so each piece of yarn is going straight through rather than being forced into a V that places tension on itself, which is the more proper way of making pom-poms and requires some sort of donut-shaped thing. I just cut mine out of cardboard. Anyway, yay for applying lessons learned. With procrastination properly achieved, gold stars all around, it was time to actually get to work on this. I decided on which direction should be north and then tufted small patches of darker green to be like mossy bits, because moss grows on the north side of trees, right? That's an old bit of knowledge in my head, and I'm not gonna bother looking up whether it's correct, because too late, the mossy bits are done. Okay, I am happy with that amount of moss. So now from here on out, it's just grass. Woo! Gotta go wind some more yarn. Ta-da! That's it! It only took me like a day and a half to tuft, but it was like a day and a half of just straight tufting. It is late and dinner time right now, but I really do want to get the glue on the back of this before I go to bed so that it can be drying overnight. I got myself some heavy-duty carpet adhesive to spread on the back and also to attach the backing with and all that stuff, so this'll be fun, I guess, says the person who really hates glue. This seems pretty slow and boring. Do you really want to watch? I didn't think so. 'Twas indeed a slow and boring process, but it seemed pretty dry by the next morning, so we can unframe. Normally people tend to cut their pieces out of the frame, but mine is so close to the edge, I figured might as well remove the whole thing. And then of course we gotta get a preview of what it'll look like. Now I can get my remaining piece of monk's cloth framed up so that we can tuft those pieces for Shannon's rug. I sewed twill tape to the short end, and I'm just gonna do some lashing to get that tightened nicely on there. Unfortunately, one of her pieces was just a teeny bit too long for my fabric, literally like 1 or 2 inches, but I cut it into 2 pieces, so she'll be able to butt those up against each other, and then, oh look, it's back to tufting! I had all these plans for how to attach the stump and the rocks, like complicated sewing through the cardboard plans, and then I was like, hey, you got yourself the heavy-duty carpet adhesive. How about you just glue them on like a normal person? But then I realized that if I just apply glue to this fabric with nothing behind it, the glue will seep through a bit and stick to the floor, or whatever is there. So actually, I'm gonna turn in the edges and glue on the backing first. My goal was to only get into this whole carpet adhesive mess one more time. I hate the cleanup, so I got Shannon's pieces finished first and moved on to gluing the back of those before then sticking down that stump. Actually, I was planning to go around the edges of my rug and put some extra glue on the backing first, but I got excited. Okay, and on to the rocks. As soon as I started doing this, I was like, oh, actually, it's a really good thing you decided to glue them, because my original idea basically had me tacking them down in two places, sort of like the way dolls are attached to that cardboard backing in their packages, you know? And that would have been very unsmart, because then the edges would have all been detached, meaning you could catch your toes on them while walking by, resulting in injuries to either you or the rug, neither of which I would like to happen. I'm gonna get the rest of these rocks on here though, play around with the pom-poms maybe, tweak a few things, but y'all, I think it's finally time for the final product. Hi, my baby. Hi. You're so stinky. Okay, this video was probably super long because this was a big project. So I will try to keep my outro brief. Try being the key word here. First of all, I love it. I truly do. I'm so proud of all of the stuff that I figured out along the way. I mean, I built myself an entire tufting frame and a yarn box in the middle of this process. Not to mention figuring out how to make a stump and rocks out of fabric. Y'all know I'm a fan of a list, but seriously, lists. If you have a project that's daunting and it just seems complicated and has so many steps to it, make yourself a list. Stay organized. You can accomplish anything with the help of a list. I feel like my head is just being cut off here unless I slump. So we don't slump like this. Better. I also love that this is a mashup of new products, secondhand materials, and what is technically trash. I think it's good to keep in mind that even if something that you're making isn't completely made out of waste materials or something, you can still use as much as possible. You can still blend. You know, I bought the yarn mostly new because I wanted it all to match, but then all of this fabric is secondhand from creative reuse stores, and we've got fabric, foam, and cardboard that would essentially just be waste all inside here too. So that's really freaking cool. It is also like 3 times the size of my original moss rug. I did not really mean for it to get this big. And it is now taking up the chunk of my office floor space where the moss rug used to be, begging the question, should I maybe auction off the original moss rug at this year's charity auction? I don't know, maybe. Okay, but with all of that said, here's the thing. I love this, I'm proud of it, I like how it looks, but I do kind of have an issue with it. In my head, I was picturing the tufting being significantly longer, although in retrospect, I have used that tufting gun before, so I should have known what the pile would be. I did know what the pile would be. I don't know where I got it in my head that it would be any longer, because this is something that I learned when I went to the actual tufting workshop and talked to people who do this professionally. There's apparently no such thing right now as an adjustable tufting gun. Someone should maybe get on that. Every tufting gun creates its own specific type and length of pile. So it is very likely that I will be getting myself a new tufting gun in the not so far future, because I really would prefer a longer pile than this, just in general for making rugs. Like, I did not trim this barely at all. I clipped off maybe 5 pieces of yarn because it's already so short. But it's not covering up the edges of the rocks, especially where the seams have pulled around, the way that I was picturing it doing so in my head. Which is fine, it's okay. I still think it looks good, and that's not the end of the world at all. But I would love to add a little more color and texture to this in the future, while also potentially covering up some of the spots that are just more like, hey, this is fabric. The pom-poms definitely add quite a bit of variety. I kind of realized that I only liked them if I did more of them. At first I had maybe like 10 threw those on here, and I was like, I don't really know if that looks right. It's kind of weird. And then I realized that it's not gonna look right unless you make a lot more. So I did. But I would really like some texture that actually goes up onto the rocks and up onto the stump especially, to kind of help with that uncanny valley feeling that it has. And this is gonna be a whole project in itself. One that I probably will not be getting to or showing you for a month or more. Spoiler alert, it's gonna take some embroidery. So I'm excited to do that and to add more to this soon, but I'm also perfectly happy to call it done right now. And I do love the way that it looks. If we check in on that list one more time, you'll notice that there is one tiny little item that still hasn't been crossed off. These pieces for Shannon are done and dry and ready to go, so I am gonna get them packed up and shipped off to her. If you want to see them put to good use, then check out her video. I will put that link in the description. It's gonna be a good time. Her rug looks so freaking cool already, and that's without the tufting on it, because that's as far as I've seen it at this point. Thanks for sticking with me to the end of this one. It was a beast of a project, but also it's one that I have been picturing and planning for so long. So it's really cool that it exists now, here on the floor of my office. Taking up so much space, which I am very happy to give it.
Are we having any fun?
Oh, that's so much closer than I thought it was.
Ow, my butt.
Is there so much fur clumpuses?
Yeah.
Sorry. Ow! My nose feels a little too full of stuff.
Look at the puppy while I clean my nose out.
That's a big yawn. I'm nervous to do this.
Only Frank, I'm nervous.
Yeah. Cell 5. That was probably so loud. Oh, I'm gonna forget and hold on to the side of this frame. I'm also really debating. Why am I? Oh god, I'm all over the place. Yarn fluff everywhere. It's in my eyes. I mean, this is my own fault. I started filming while there were people still outside doing yawn care. Yawn care? Lawn care? Yard care? Come to me. Coffee, please. Oh,